for I am Samhain. I am Halloween.
Okay, no problem. You're new in town, out of the house for the first time in 1,200 years. You want a little excitement. Hey, I can understand that.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another cartoon commentary. Toon Guys talking. Eric joining me once again from the Isle of Man. How are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. How you doing?
Excellent. Gearing up for Halloween, and what better way than to watch some Ghostbusters animation. And this is going to be a twofer this time. This is your idea, great idea. A comparison, cartoon commentary comparison. So we're going to give some time to some cartoons that otherwise wouldn't be getting a shot at the commentary as a follow-up comparison to other cartoons. And so there's the real Ghostbusters, which everybody knows and loves, and there's also the Filmation Ghostbusters, which is the real Ghostbusters, but it's the real fake, original. Anyway, it's the original Ghostbusters cartoon, which we'll be watching after the real Ghostbusters episode. But we're going to kick it off with the Halloween episode of Ghostbusters. Sorry if this brings back some bad memories. A lot of people were freaked out by old Samhain back in the day.
Freaked me out.
Old Pumpkinhead. It's called When Halloween Was Forever. Go over to the Ghostbusters official YouTube channel. They got a ton of great animated Ghostbusters on there, both real as well as extreme Ghostbusters on there. So it's up there for everybody to watch. Load up the video, start it at the beginning and pause, and here's your countdown. 3, 2, 1, play. On play, you'll press play. Ready? 3, 2, 1, play. Yeah. Ray Parker Jr. So happy that they were able to use the official song in the cartoon.
Yeah. When you saw this when you were a kid, this is when you knew it was on, when you heard that theme song.
Yeah. And this is one of the most replayable songs I've ever heard in my life. I've heard it, I don't know, countless times, not just listening on the radio or putting it on iPod or whatever device, but hearing it in every episode of the real Ghostbusters. And it's just such a catchy tune. You know,
well, it's very easy to sing along to.
Yeah. Kudos to Huey Lewis. Yeah, Ghostbusters is just riddled with all sorts of legal issues. It's amazing it's been as fun and successful as it has been with all the legal stuff involved around with it. Can't call it Ghostbusters, it's the real Ghostbusters, which
just
we'll talk
slide
about.
That in there, just right in the ribs.
Yeah. And it's actually by J. Michael Straczynski. I was going to try to not mention Michael Straczynski because it seems like anytime anyone on the internet is talking about the real Ghostbusters, they go, "Did you know J. Michael Straczynski wrote some episodes?" And everyone's like, everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But we're actually watching an episode by him, so that's cool.
I don't know that there's a cartoon that was on the air in the 80s that he didn't have something to do with.
Yeah, Jason the Wheeled Warriors also.
Yeah.
So we just kick right off with them doing their job.
Tougher than I thought.
Arsenio Hall.
Catch my breath.
I'm really hoping that he's a doctor in Afterlife, which Afterlife is on the way. The newest Ghostbusters, basically Ghostbusters 3, since it'll follow the canon of 1 and 2. So I'm hoping that in the time since we've seen him, Mr. Zedmore has had the opportunity to become Dr. Zedmore, so that it's the 3 doctors again.
Was described by spokesman Dr. Peter Venkman as a minor job, a piece of cake. No problem at all. A piece of cake, Dr. Venkman?
I never said that. Even if I said it, I never said it.
And we're in one of the early episodes where Lorenzo Music is doing the voice of Venkman.
I think we've seen that at least 3 times more than
he got sacked a while later because, as the legend goes, Bill wasn't impressed with the laconic portrayal of his character.
Of course, the irony there is something I think everybody is aware of.
Garfield.
Seems like the closer we get to Halloween, the more cases we get, each tougher than the last. Interesting, huh, Egon?
It's too bad Lorenzo never lived to hear Bill Murray's rendition of Garfield. Kind of wonder what he would have said about it. You might want to amp it up a little bit there, kid.
A little on the sleepy side.
Yeah.
Nothing. No, you did nothing last night. You got to take these things slowly. Too much nothing in 1 week.
So even though they changed so much about the show, Remember the hair colors
Mm.
and just the looks? They had to change the looks because they didn't have actual likeness rights. The suit colors were all changed. It still felt so much like the movie, like
Yeah.
the comedy, the writing. They even had some good Motown sounding music playing along. It just, even though it looked wrong, it felt so right.
Swear it looked just like,
Okay, okay. I'll talk.
It was. I always thought it almost felt like it was more or less caricatures of the actual actors and characters in the movie.
Mhm.
But I heard somebody argue one time that you know, the real Ghostbusters was as close to the actual movie as the other Ghostbusters was, as far as, you know, the characters. But I don't know. I mean, it's the first episode of the real Ghostbusters, if I'm not mistaken, was basically a continuation right after the events of the first film, right?
I think that might have been later on, but
Was
they
it
did
later
do.
on?
It
Mhm.
might have been the Spectral Ghostbusters episode because
Mhm.
they are wearing the suits, which is
Yeah.
similar to the one Ray is still wearing. They
Mhm.
were wearing the suits that were covered in the marshmallow goo, so
Mhm.
they needed to be incinerated, and someone forgot to do it, and then the suits just came alive as the Spectral Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So that was actually picking up right where the first movie left off, and I always felt like they went hand in hand, or like maybe not in the same canon, but it's funny how they made it to be that was the actual real Ghostbusters, not just a dig at the Filmation property, but these are the real Ghostbusters. And then Bill Murray and his friends went and made a fake Hollywood movie based on these real Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So they did an episode where these guys actually go to the movie set and they see, you know, them filming the movie, and then they go and they watch the movie, and one of the lines is like, "That guy looks nothing like me." When they actually use a clip from the movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very meta.
Yeah, very meta. Yeah. So they flipped it around like, no, this isn't based on the movie. The movie is based on this.
Mm. Well, from a design standpoint, I can understand why they changed the colors of the suits, because if you see all of them in one frame, they're sort of going to blend all together. So it makes a lot of sense just from a animation and a just a painting standpoint, really, that they're going to give them different outfits. It's pretty smart.
And figures too.
Yeah, it makes the toys a little bit more exciting.
It is.
Yeah, this is terrifying. This would still be scary.
Yeah,
There's the music. Yeah.
Yeah, good old Motown sounding. I wish they would. I don't know if they have. I don't know if they have a soundtrack of this show, just of all the songs, the actual songs they used. And I think they were made specifically for the show. I think this is a great show for kids these days. There's a lot of cartoons these days that I go, I don't know if a really little kid should be watching this. And even some of the 80s, like maybe a little kid shouldn't be watching Robotech or Macross. But this is a little spooky, but it never really crosses the line. It's like a fun, harmless spookiness.
Yeah, strangely. So I know it's come up in some of our chats before. My mom was really not into anything that was like demonic or anything like that. She didn't ever, and maybe she never noticed, but she never had a problem with this show. I used to watch this on Saturday mornings, and I was a huge Robotech fan. I used to watch Robotech every day before school, so that was never a problem either.
It's just very fun that you hear it. It passes the smell test very quickly. You watch 10 seconds of this and you hear doom doom doom. It's just it's just fun and harmless and funny and well written too, very witty.
And this was all DiC animation, if I'm not mistaken, right? Was it?
Yes, shocking.
Yeah. It's
absolutely shocking.
Surprisingly good for DiC.
Voice acting was great too. I guess it was before all of the cost cutting that came in the late 80s, because DiC did Mask as well, which is one of the best animated shows of the 80s.
Yeah.
Before the dark times. before Toronto voice acting. Much love to the Toronto voice acting crew of the 80s. But I mean, when you went from Sunbow to DiC G.I. Joe, the proof is in the pudding right there. It's just, there's no comparison.
I don't see anything. Maybe Janine was mistaken.
Boy, don't you just love it the way they light up the trees at Christmas?
I don't know. I mean, every year, earlier and earlier,
Frank Welker as Ray
Peter,
Stantz.
it's not Christmas.
Then we're in serious trouble, aren't we?
They're so like their movie counterparts. The
Yeah.
personalities are just perfect. Just, amped up. Ray is more Ray, and Venkman's more Venkman. Egon's more Egon, and Zedmore's just more Zedmore, which is just more normal. Just the straight man.
It's kind of interesting because if you compare this to the Robotech or RoboCop show we watched, I do
that too.
Yeah, RoboCop was sort of amped down. Where these are,
Yeah, it's true. And Welker as Slimer, or the spirit of John Belushi, as they call him. It was the show that made Slimer the beloved little mascot.
yeah.
You didn't get that from the first movie.
Well, and in later episodes, I think it was season 4, or was it 5, that they actually tagged the show Slimer in the Real Ghostbusters, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, they made him more of a feature character. Yeah, he's just in the first movie very, very quickly, and a villain ghost. It's funny how the show had to make all these changes to not look like the movie, but then the show got so successful when they got around to doing the sequel movie, they had to do changes to the movie, or wanted to change things in the movie to make it look more like the show. So they had Zedmore shave his mustache to look like the cartoon, which wasn't allowed to look like the movie.
Yeah.
They changed Janine to look more like on the show. All these little changes, like, how must the animators feel? Like, hey, you're ripping us off now?
You disappoint me. But no matter. Night without end is coming, and you will join my midnight.
Pumpkin with teeth. It's giving me some ideas for carving pumpkins this year. I'll also have to find an old set of dentures or something.
Do you know if Sam Hain is like an actual legend or just created for the show?
It is, yeah. It's I don't know what it is offhand, but I know that Sam Hain's a I think it might be an All Hallows Eve legend.
This doesn't generally happen in the show, where it's kind of like the movie, where it's just mass ghosts attacking the city. But if you're going to do it, Halloween is a good opportunity to do.
So here you go. Sam Hain is actually a Gaelic festival marking the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter.
They've gotten a lot better with those streams.
Boy, my pooped.
Or were they always? And it's just the movie guys didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, the stuntmen weren't any good.
Yeah. Hey, we're actors, man.
Wait a minute, this can't be right. It's been hours since we started.
So Lorenzo Music, the voice of Garfield, was replaced after a while with Dave Coulier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was Uncle Joey, I think, from Full House, who did a fine job, too. And Arsenio got replaced a little later on with, I think it was Buster Jones, who was Blaster and Doc. Blaster from Transformers and Doc on G.I. Joe.
Well, I'm looking around because I was always under the impression that Howie Mandel was the voice of Slimer, but he's not, is he?
No, Howie was the voice of Gizmo.
Well, oh yeah, that's
Gremlins.
right. That's right.
He was another adorable 80s lovable little critter.
3. Nights falling everywhere. 4. Time is slow.
I really like that Egon is more Egon from the first movie. He's just serious, never smiles. I'm terrified beyond all rational thought. He's got some really great lines that I can just imagine Harold Ramis saying in the first movie.
Well, his I collect spores, mold, and fungus. That's one of my all-time favorite lines.
Come on, let's reel it in.
It's so cool because you don't get to see it much in the first movie. It's so cool to see the four of them busting ghosts, just as a team, working as a team.
It was quiet, too quiet.
And it's also cool that they never really expand the team. Occasionally, Janine wears a pack, and Louis Tully is introduced later on. But for the most part, they kept it to the four guys.
I repeat, why are you bothering my little ones?
You mean these little creeps we've been blasting all night?
You say those things are your little ones?
All things of the night are mine. On this night morn.
It'd be a great thing to make a sculpture of.
Yeah.
Get some ideas here.
I am
I mean, you could go full blast and just have a bunch of Ghostbusters capturing him in a proton stream. Might be cheaper to just buy the Kenner Classics.
Yeah, right.
And set them around him. But I don't think they ever made a Sam Hain figure.
Yeah, I don't recall that. I think the infamous one from the Real Ghostbusters line was the toilet. But
yeah. I did see some pumpkin-headed thing at Toys R Us here in Canada recently, and I thought, hey, might make a good Sam Hain.
Hey, I can understand that.
So the original idea, from what I remember seeing, was to call it Ghost Smashers, and the whole reason they went with Ghostbusters is it's just fun. The word Ghostbusters, the name Ghostbusters, is fun to say. It's and so they did license it from Filmation that owned it, but
so apparently there's a like a retro action figure set with Janine and Sam Hain.
Really?
Yeah, it's a looks like almost like a 6-inch doll kind of line.
Oh, the Mego style.
I think it might be. Yeah, it's the retro action.
Yes, those came out a couple of years back. They did the 4 Ghostbusters, and I see the picture of it right now. I just called it up. And they did do a Sam Hain, and that's that Mego style Sam Hain actually might not go too bad with the Kenner Ghostbusters. I think it'd be fine if he's a little, because he's undersized with the Janine set.
I think so. Yeah,
I think he's smaller than he should be. So there you go. If you want a Sam Hain for your Ghostbusters collection.
The light. It drove him off.
Yeah, well, it doesn't do much for me either, Egon.
It hates light.
Look, it's very annoying.
That would weaken it enough to...
You might be onto something there, Egon.
The whole city's blacked out. At least our power packs are still working.
That's it. I know what to do, but I
See,
need
Winston's the one with common sense. He points up to test the the wand.
Doesn't stare down the barrel or anything like that.
You know, Ray, despite his PhD, is blasting right into a window. Oh, mine works too. So these guys are wearing black. I believe they're black proton packs on the show. The toys came with blue ones, but anyone out there, if you want a Filmation, or not Filmation, Deke, cartoon accurate Ghostbusters figure, check out Charlie's Custom Toy Shop. Give them a shout out. He does custom proton packs and other accessories for Kenner Ghostbusters, and you can get the packs in black from him.
Nice.
Yeah, he's huge here, Sam Hain.
Yeah, he'd be a big one.
Oh no. Poor Slimer.
Not yet. We may yet have need of this one.
Why do I have the terrible feeling that I'm not going to enjoy this at all?
I just hope Egon knows what he's doing.
There's the theme. Nice.
Yeah. And they had the rights to it, and they used a lot of it wisely. And it was the theme. If it was a cover, it was a really close cover.
Yeah.
You in the car. You call yourselves goblins? Why, you're nothing but a bunch of zone dweebies.
Doesn't know how to insult somebody.
Oh no.
One down,
Zone
4 to go.
dweebies. Yeah, it's interesting that the actual movie Ghostbusters, there isn't a blonde on the team.
No, yeah.
They just were who they were. It was the guys they were going to use, and even before Bill Murray joined the project, it was going to be John Belushi as Venkman, another brunette. And it was just, that's how it is. There was no, well, we need to get one of these in here. We need to get one of those in there. It's just the right guys for the job.
Well, I think part of their charm is they all look kind of like blue collar guys, yeah. Even the outfits and everything.
But then on the show, you've got a blonde, you've got a redhead, you got a brunette.
Something I can do for you?
Yeah, Egon's hair is a little more like a surfer do, really.
With the little rat tail, it's it's odd. Duck tail on the front.
And the pompadour kind of
yeah, pompadour. That's it. Maybe he was a Johnny Cash fan.
Trouble. Big trouble.
Well, we made it to the party. Who's got the soda and chips?
I could picture Bill saying every one of those lines.
I will deal with these personally.
And you said they wouldn't be glad to see us.
Whatever Egon's doing, I wish he'd hurry up. I don't like the odds.
Pretty tame these days. Like it's not as scary as I remember it being.
Yeah, I think there was that factor of the kid factor being about 10 years old and being significantly more frightened of what was going on.
That voice is really freaky.
Yeah.
Picking on such poor
You know what's actually freaky is the love he has for his minions. That's what's especially freaky, because usually your supervillains are mean to their minions and domineering. This guy has such a love, care for his little monsters. That's unsettling.
Sort of like a paternal sort of attachment.
Oh, now this was the freaky part. I remember now what he did to Slimer.
Hey, no fair. Yeah, leave him alone. Nobody picks on the Spud but me, got it?
You cannot win. Already time has
the
started.
sound. I remember this.
Halloween
The squish sound.
night will never end.
Come on, Slimer.
It's funny the things that are just lodged in your memory. I haven't seen this episode in ages, but I remember.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I actually watched a complete episode of this.
He's like a stress ball. Pizza.
Yeah.
That is definitely the ghost of John Belushi.
Yeah. I'd never heard that before. I like that idea.
Yeah, it was a little tribute they put in because he was supposed to be Venkman.
Yeah.
Egon, baby, I love you. Fire!
Even the sound effects are taken right out of the movie, which I loved.
Yeah.
When they power up, they sound the same. It's great that they had the sound library from the movie.
Well, it's a very kind of Zool moment here, right? When they're fighting, on the top of the building. It's interesting.
And he only appeared as a feature character in this one episode. It seems as though he does appear in cameos down the road, like in the one where they go into the containment unit. He's there.
Yeah, I remember that.
But just a quick cameo, and he's never really featured again. He doesn't escape and cause trouble again. So,
well, it's interesting they never really had a ongoing baddie. I mean, that was one thing. Like I would have expected they would have had some sort of specter that was
an arch nemesis.
Yeah, they're showing up every other episode or so.
If anything, it was Gozer, because I think Gozer gets out again, Stay Puffed, and so they have to deal with that again. But yeah, pretty much it was one shots, one and done.
Now. This I gotta see. Well,
That's so funny. It's like taking out the trash.
See for yourself.
Huh. That'd be nightmare fuel. Looking into this thing and seeing everything and going, whoa. I like that he's just sitting there dejected. This sucks.
This has been the worst Halloween ever.
Just us, trick or treat.
Trick. Definitely trick.
Talk about taking a character and making it your own. Frank Welker really is Slimer.
Yeah.
Even though he's not the original one, I don't believe he voiced him in the movie. That certainly made him his own.
Huh.
And the dance from the Ghostbusters music video.
Yeah. The parade.
I love doing this dance whenever I hear the song because it's one of the only dances I can actually do. It's not much to it.
Nice. It's a good spit on it.
Oh, I just noticed that Ray was wearing some goggles like Aykroyd wore in the first Ghostbusters movie. You don't really see him wearing goggles in the show very much, but I guess that was animated, in the early stages of the show. So they're like, that's one of Ray's trademark things from the movie.
Mm-hmm. So
that was the real Ghostbusters. And I guess we're going to call up the real Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I guess I could call it the original. That would have been the way to get back at him.
Sure, the original Ghostbusters.
This cartoon is actually, I think, is just fascinating for a lot of reasons. But I'll get into some stories as we're going. But what are your memories of this coming out? I'm sure you saw this back in the day, right?
I never watched a full episode. I don't believe, but I do have one pretty vivid memory of. It was probably on a TV guide, saying Ghostbusters is coming up, or either on the TV guide channel or the actual printed TV guide. And great, Ghostbusters! I love Ghostbusters. And this came on, and the vivid memory I have is, what the hell is this?
Same memory. Exactly the same. I remember seeing this, and it was on at like 3:00. It was, and I don't know about you, I used to always look at the TV guide for like the new cartoons every September that were coming out. And I remember seeing Ghostbusters and thinking like, oh my gosh, right? And running home from school and turning it on, and the first shot is the Ghostbusters logo with the different ghosts, and thinking, wait a minute. And then seeing the gorilla.
Yeah.
And thinking, what is this?
I remember thinking that too, the gorilla. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's going on here? But it's funny, not knowing any of the behind the scenes stuff, not having Google or smartphone to just quickly look it up, and really no one cared. That's the other thing that's really changed over the years. No one cared at the time. So it's not like it was even somewhere where you could find it. No one really cared. But I remember thinking, this must be a rights thing. Something is going on with the Ghostbusters rights. Even at young age, I knew something was going on. And so, that's why that other show is called The Real Ghostbusters, because of this fake Ghostbusters. There's a fake, but then I remember thinking, but no, that doesn't make any sense. If they're the real Ghostbusters, why would they call themselves The Real Ghostbusters? They would just call themselves Ghostbusters. And that's when I realized, oh my God, is this the real Ghostbusters? So not knowing about the live action show, I just wondered, like, was this conceived before the Aykroyd and Bill Murray movie? And these are just guys going, hey, we own this, we're doing this. And so they did. And it's funny, like all of the behind the scenes legal stuff I was theorizing, and probably with friends at school too, like, what's going on with that fake Ghostbusters show? No, it's the real one. The real one is the fake one.
Yeah. Well, I remember thinking that there must have been some way, like if they were calling it The Real Ghostbusters, I was thinking, okay, there's some reason they were able to make this show and call it Ghostbusters. And I had no idea. I'd never heard of the 70s show or anything like that. But I just figured it was something like that. Like maybe they'd gotten and made a cartoon faster, and then they had to real Ghostbusters had to kind of catch up. I had no idea of the story behind it. I remember there was a time before the Real Ghostbusters came out where I was thinking, did they just have to do something weird, and they decided they didn't want to do like a cartoon based on the movie, and so they just did something else? And I was like trying to like rationalize it, and been like, is this supposed to be like Bankman? Is this supposed to be Ray? It's like it was who's the gorilla supposed to be? Yeah, it was so bizarre. But the trick was, the thing is, it's actually a pretty decent cartoon. I mean, if you watch it, it's really well done. And the opening sequence is great. I mean, it's really well animated, and the voices are nice and everything. There's nothing really not to like about it. It's just, I think because it's not the movie Ghostbusters or the real Ghostbusters, if you will. I even remember the toys being pretty awesome. So Yeah, it's just kind of an oddity, really.
So we're gonna call it up right now, and you could find it around. It is in a couple of different spots on YouTube. We're watching episode 1 of. It's just called Ghostbusters. So look for maybe what is it? 01E01 episode 1, season 1, Ghostbusters. The actual episode name is "I'll Be a Son of a Ghostbuster." Came out in 1986, just like the first episode of the real Ghostbusters came out in 1986. Cue it up, pause it at the beginning. Here's your countdown. 3, 2, 1, play. And there's the Filmation logo.
Get to the bottom of this gorilla.
And Filmation, they were in their prime at this time. They were doing She-Ra, which looked a little better than He-Man. They're going to be working on Brave Star soon, which was their pinnacle. So yeah, I think the animation on this is better than He-Man.
It's terrific.
And the thing about the name Ghostbusters, this song right here, to me says any song with the name Ghostbusters in it is going to be catchy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I understand why they wanted that name so much and just didn't settle for Ghost Smashers, because it's just a fun word to say, Ghostbusters.
I like the villain montage here.
Beautiful animation. Yeah, it's maybe they should have called it Ghost Smashers. The real Ghost Smashers. That would have been a shot in the ribs at Sony or Paramount. But I think this one kind of gets swept under the rug because it's that other Ghostbusters show. If they had called it something else, maybe it would be a little better remembered.
Well, if you really want to play with your brain, if they had called Ghostbusters Ghost Smashers, would we have even seen this cartoon? Because obviously this is
true.
They brought this out in response to the Ghostbusters movie. I mean, that's almost a given.
True. Yep. And same guy who did the Brave Star movie, The Legend, was working on this. And this is based on a live action show from 1975, also by Filmation. So Filmation did more than just animation. They also did some live action. And that's why they own the rights. They came up with it in 75, almost a decade before the Ghostbusters movie came out. So you've got some of the, I believe that's Alan Oppenheimer as the voice.
And this, I mean, they set him up as the sort of the go-to villain, the arch nemesis right away. So, and I think this show does that a little bit better. He's the Skeletor, if you will.
So why don't you fill the folks in? You were telling me before we went on here about the behind the scenes dealings with how this came to be.
Yeah. So like we said, Filmation had made this live action show in the 70s, 75. And when they went to make Ghostbusters, they wanted the name Ghostbusters. So they'd done this deal with Filmation that they could use the name, and then they'd give residuals from the film, not from any subsequent cartoon or merchandising, to Filmation. And they did some financial trickery and basically were able to say, like, no, we didn't make any money off of Ghostbusters. We don't owe you anything. So in what I can only imagine is a response to that, Filmation said, you know what, we're going to do our own Ghostbuster. We'll use our name and we'll make a cartoon and make it based on our old show, which they had every legal right to do. So I think the story is that Columbia Pictures went in and did the real Ghostbusters in a little bit of a slimy move, to A, get around copyright, and B, differentiate themselves. So
of all of the descriptors to use,
yeah,
why didn't they just call it the Screw You Filmation? These are the absolutely positively real, not fake with some weird gorilla Ghostbusters.
the Ghostbusters you're looking for.
The Ghostbusters you know and love.
So these are the characters from the original show, these two right here. And so I think and these are their kids, or it's like one of the kids and then one of the friends. But these two characters with the hats are the ones from the show.
So they pick up where the show left off.
Basically, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
That's great. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's kind of like watching an old Sid and Marty Krofft show. It's great when you're a kid, but it's borderline unwatchable as an adult. Yeah.
Well, I'm really impressed by the animation. It's better than I remember it
Mhm.
being for, the few minutes I saw it.
Oh, the cartoon, yeah, the cartoon is fantastic, and I honestly, with the exception of the nostalgia and attachment to the characters of the real Ghostbusters, I think this is actually a more watchable show as an adult. It's a
Mm.
little bit. I think it feels a little bit more sophisticated somehow. I'm sure people would disagree with me, but
Well, that was Lou's whole thing, right?
mhm,
He was given the opportunity to make kids shows, and he said, "Well, I'm going to do a little more with what I have to work
mhm.
with. Yeah, it'll definitely be entertaining for kids, but there's going to be something a little more substance there for the big kids at the time, or the kids when they grow up, so that they
Mhm.
come back and have a little something extra."
Lighten up, guys.
Mhm.
You can't expect to learn ghost busting overnight.
That voice sounds so familiar.
Yeah.
It's like Gary Chalk.
Top-notch Ghostbusters. Just wait and see.
Oh God, it does sound. It's not.
Buster, where?
I'm looking at the cast right now.
Who said that?
Peter Cullen.
Yeah, Peter
It
Cullen.
is Optimus
I thought it sounded
Prime.
like Peter Cullen.
That's funny. I thought it was Gary Chalk. The the when you can't afford Peter Cullen, you get Peter Chalk, but Gary Chalk. But it's actually Peter Cullen. That's great. And Pat Fraley is on here too.
Roll out.
Pat Fraley was the voice of Brave Star, so he has a voice in this too. He's Jake Kong Jr.
Susan Blue is in here also.
Yeah.
RC herself, of course. I don't know which character she is. Let's see. Yeah, her voice is almost unmistakable.
It's like a cast of 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7 people. Lou Scheimer obviously in there. I'll do
Looks like-
everybody else.
And Erica Scheimer, I guess. His daughter was.
Yeah,
A
she
voice
did quite a
actress
few
before.
voices on He-Man and She-Ra as well. And Brave Star.
You can't hide.
Well, his whole shows, the Lou Scheimer shows, are one of those where, they were such a part of our youth, and so many of them were so well received. I mean, we watched, He-Man, of course, and Brave Star, and gosh, how many others? But I think they're regarded, I think, in their own light nowadays. I think the Lou Scheimer shows had a definitive look and feel and tone that I think is a lot different than a lot of other shows.
Yeah. Lou is the Bob Ross of
Mhm.
the animation industry of the 80s. Yeah. The other shows, they were fun. They're, kick butt. Lou's stuff really hits the heart a lot more than any of the others. Lou seems like he was motivated by love more than by profit. And, obviously he wanted to run and did run a very successful business, support a lot of families for many years. But it seems like he was controlled more, guided more by conscience than a lot of the other decision makers were.
Well, and even one of his earlier shows, the Star Trek animated series, is quite. I mean, you watch it; it's hard to compare it to the original show and all, but as a spiritual successor and kind of sequel, if you will, to the regular show, the original series, it's very well done. I mean, tonally, and they have most of the voice actors. And
I'll tell you, I talk about spiritual successor, and when something is spiritual, you feel it. You can't explain it, but you feel it. I put it on for a long time Trek fan, one that grew up on TOS and watched it a lot and has watched it a lot since then. And I put it on for someone who is not into animation at all, like just never watched it, still never watches it. I put it on just as an oddity. Hey, check this out. This is quite a peculiarity. It's a cartoon from the 70s with all of the voice cast, like the actual cast from the show. Put it on just for 5 minutes and went to turn it off, and they were like, no, hang on. This is interesting. Watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that felt like an old TOS, a lost TOS episode. Even though it was animated, it didn't seem like it. It just felt like, and that is because a lot of the scripts were unused scripts from TOS.
Yeah.
But it's the cast, it's the spirit of it. They got the feel perfectly.
There were a couple of standouts of that. There was a sequel to the Tribbles episode,
more Tribbles,
and I can't for the life of me, I can't remember what it was called, but there was one where they introduced Robert April, the first captain of the Enterprise, and the one actually before Pike. And there were some, there's some standouts there. I recall.
Have a score to settle.
with the
This character's so Skeletor.
Ghostbusters. So quite different from the real Ghostbusters. They had their recurring nemesis in this Skullhead dude. I'm guessing he wasn't a one and done.
Ghostbusting business. You'll work out of this office. Ghost coming.
Oh, that's Pat Fraley. That's the good Marshall.
Wow, this place has really changed since the last time we were here. 9 o'clock.
I like the sassy appliances because they're a must. That's a phone.
I love
clock.
I love the name of the villain, Prime Evil, which is funny because Peter Cullen probably was saying, Prime Evil, eh? That's kind of interesting. I'm playing Prime on another show. Prime good.
Hello. Oh, they hung up.
That's Pat Fraley, also Ace from G.I. Joe.
Let's change the channel.
That's Peter Cullen as well. I didn't realize he
sounded like it. Yeah.
Yeah. All 65 episodes.
There's the gorilla. This is, as a kid, as much as you might have been tricking yourself that you were watching something that was the actual Ghostbusters from the movie or something. You see the gorilla and you're like, no, this is not on the program.
Wow, if you want to see the range of these voice actors, it's such a small cast, but the number of characters they did on the show. I just looked up the voices Peter Cullen did on the show. Ed Spencer Jr., Bratterrat, Haunter, Big Tooth, Ed Spencer Sr., Floatzart, Benny, Big Evil, Great Ghost Gorilla, King Arthur. I'm not even 1/4 done the cast list here of voices he did. Morrow, Anthrax, Beast, Beefeater, Count Freeze, Delwyn. It just keeps going on and on and on.
Just about finished my new quarters.
That's a really cool surprise, finding out Peter Cullen did so many voices on the show. Usually he was just 1 or 2 voices because he had that really distinct deep voice as Prime and Ironhide. So he didn't get to do much on Transformers. G.I. Joe, he was barely on it. He was airborne for a few episodes and maybe a couple of other smaller characters. He didn't have a really big featured Joe voice. But when I heard Peter do Murky Dismal on Rainbow Bright, I thought, wow, this guy really had some range.
So here's something I'm finding really interesting because I didn't notice. Now I'm kind of looking along and seeing some of the history of the show. This was released just a few days in front of the real Ghostbusters, apparently.
Yeah.
Which I thought this was on quite a long time before I ever saw real Ghostbusters.
It must be the live action show is messing with the timeline, like because it existed.
Mm-hmm.
The canon existed. It's just it came out, just shortly before the real Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I wonder if when I saw it, it was like before the real Ghostbusters was even out.
I think what's going on for me is now that I'm thinking about it, I remember seeing the toys in like the Sears catalog or whatever it was, that would come like say midsummer, and you'd see the toys, and sometimes the toys would come out before the cartoon did. Yeah. And I think I remember seeing the toy ad and seeing and thinking like, is this supposed to be the same Ghostbusters? And then seeing the show. Yeah, I think that's what happened. I think my preteen memory is clicking into place here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the haunter, civilized hunter of haunted.
So I'm the least threatening ghost you can possibly imagine.
These ghosts are very sophisticated.
Yes, I don't know what this thing's supposed to be. It looks like a robot. Yeah,
it's Filmation, so it's a robot.
Under my command, we will take over the world of mortals. But first,
kind of looks like Kordak's little winged buddy, that little imp thing.
100 years back in time to the 1980s. And this is what you'll do to the girls.
He hates saying it. Ghostbusters. So bizarre. It's like an alternate universe. In this universe, these are your Ghostbusters.
They're the Ghostbusters.
It's a weird call. Like I know they owned it, they came up with it, and they must have felt really slighted with how things went, even though a deal was made. But you know that the profits thing and not being fully honest and stuff. But how safe a bet was it to do a cartoon called Ghostbusters after a smash hit movie like that, and a smash hit song that was in everyone's head?
The term gutsy comes to mind.
Gutsy.
It's a gutsy move for sure. But I mean, you know, I'm looking now and I'm looking at the toys, and I remember they were pretty cool looking back then. I think even in the day, seeing these in that Sears catalog on the toy shelf. But I think they've held up. I mean, these are really good looking figures. Like, you know, they look very much like their animation counterparts, and very bright and vivid, and you know, they're really nice. I wonder how collectible they are now. I wonder if they're floating around out there. My bet is, like everything else, they've got started getting snapped up.
Wonder who did them.
It was it LJN? It was, hold on, I'm looking.
Oh, they do look good. I just looked up an image. Yeah, they're what you'd see today in terms of animation accurate. Yeah, they look fantastic.
Yeah. Shaper and Tycho.
Tycho.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tycho, apparently.
Yeah, they're like those Toynami.
Yeah.
You drive a hard bargain.
These would be toys to look out for. I'll bet you they're getting hard to find though, especially now.
With Ghostbusters being such a big hit, right? The revival. I wonder if there'll be a original Ghostbusters revival too.
Yeah.
Hey, we own those.
Well, I
Wouldn't it
think
be awesome if there was some kind of cameo in Afterlife with the original Ghostbusters.
There's a gorilla in there somewhere. That would be awesome.
That's a nice tip of the hat.
They go to a zoo or something like that, and it's got like the backpack on and the camera.
Yeah. Or even the grown-up version of these kids.
Yeah.
Why don't you ghosts to take over the future and freeze everything?
Well, I was watching for the Susan Blue, or listening for the Susan Blue, and I think it's the redheaded assistant that they just showed, right? Didn't that sound like Susan Blue's voice?
Yeah. RC from Transformers.
Yeah.
That's primeval.
Yes, Mysteria. Cover the city with your evil mists.
See, it's almost as if his sort of dimension is sort of this pseudo-futuristic sort of, you know, he's got the flying cars and the...
What does that have to do with ghosts, though?
Yeah, it's a kind of a bizarre sort of a paranormal science fiction mix.
It's sort of a case of, okay, we went from live action where we had our limitations and we had to be very creative with what we could practically do.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going into animation, and maybe they went too far. Like with the Star Trek show, they didn't really go too far. You didn't really see things that you wouldn't see in the show. Maybe a few of the aliens would be more elaborate that you can't do practically in the 60s. But for the most part, they stuck pretty close to what you saw in the old Trek show. But this is, I would imagine, nothing like the old live-action Ghostbusters show. Like, it's really out there.
A secret Ghostbuster transformation room.
It's kind of like the jump from the OT to Phantom Menace. Like, okay, we've crossed the line here.
Well, when I heard it existed, and it's out there on YouTube, you can find it. It's I watch it just to see, and it really is not. You know, when I say it's hard to watch as an adult. There's not much that's terribly redeeming about it. It's pretty goofy. It's what you would expect from like a mid-70s live action show for kids.
A little set show, yeah.
Yeah. Just bumbling around and a guy in a gorilla suit. It's goofy.
Without telling us,
This could mean only one thing.
ghosts.
Right. And I'll bet it's got something to do with Primeval and his takeover of the future.
Are they going to bust any
Eddie,
ghosts?
Tracy,
Yeah.
it's up to us to stop Primeval and find our fathers.
You're right. We're
Maybe that
going
was Sony's
Ghostbusting
argument.
Red.
Yeah, you came up with the name, but you're not actually busting any ghosts. We've got proton wands, proton streams. We've got traps.
Eddie, I think you've just stumbled on the secret transformation room. Let's get into uniform.
There we go. Oh,
here
here's
we
the
go.
power-up moment.
All right, 19 minutes in. Let's start kicking some butt. Oh, I like the theme, though.
Yeah. It's not bad.
Ghostbusters. It's not Ray Parker Jr., but, you know. It's also not Huey Lewis. I wonder if Huey tried to sue them too. Hey, sorry, force a habit.
Get in on some of that sweet Ghostbusters.
What
money.
is all of this stuff? Holy smokes.
Breaking the fourth wall a little bit.
So they kind of get into safari gear?
It's one thing I always love is when they, resort to a 2 or 3 minute sequence of pre-done animation for every episode for a transformational sequence, and they're just thinking like the writers like, okay, we can kill a couple minutes here.
Yeah.
I love when
the car.
Sleepy car. Clearly a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang inspired, I think, right? Didn't it have wings and everything?
Yeah.
There's
we're cutting it close here. There's not much left in this episode, and I feel like they're just about to roll into battle.
Posing as a driver.
It's Pat Fraley as the voice of the car again. Oh, it flies.
Yeah.
Transformer.
The mask. A lot lost. Created by Matt Tracker.
Took our dads into the future.
Matt Sniper now.
Everybody ready?
I don't know if you noticed the Hasbro Pulse convention. Spirit is no longer referred to as a tracker. Now he's a sniper.
Oh, really?
So,
do they
some of
feel
the I don't know what the reason is, but me and some of the guys from Patreon were joking that they're going to replace the word tracker with sniper for everything. So Matt Sniper and G.I. Joe Seal Sniper.
I can see that. Yeah.
By magic in the sky.
I guess it's a two-parter. So this is what will occur in the next episode.
Stonehenge.
The rocks are coming to life.
Which I still haven't seen. Haven't been over here.
Well, that one ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger.
Interesting.
You might have to revisit this someday.
Yeah, well, you know what? I will maintain. I mean, I think looking at them now, Real Ghostbusters is great. I mean, there's definitely a higher sort of degree of nostalgia there. But I think this might be the more watchable show. I think it's terrific. This stylized, and it's I think a lot more creative sort of design of characters, and I mean the character design is way better. It's just sort of bog standard with Real Ghostbusters, but I find I'm liking Ghostbusters more than I recall. I think it's a well done show,
and it also seems to flow from one episode to the next. They're not just standalone one shots like Real Ghostbusters and most 80s cartoons were. The story is going to continue, and I don't know if it keeps doing that, continuing, for an ongoing story, but that's also cool and is more watchable as an adult than as a kid. A story that is actually going somewhere. The animation is really beautiful. For video game fans out there, classic video game fans, it's kind of like if you really love those LucasArts games, it's like discovering that lost LucasArts game that you never had a chance to play. So you played Full Throttle, and you played X-Wing, and you played Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, and then finding Day of the Tentacle and going, what is this? And it's not a new thing that's trying to mimic the old things. It's an actual old thing that was made back then, feels like it's perfect, and it just slipped through the cracks. And that's what this show is. It's the Lost Filmation show, and it looks great. It's definitely better than Black Star or the animation on the Star Trek live action show. This was right as they were winding things down. So I'm very interested to see more of the original, I'll call it, not the fake Ghostbusters.
They need to bring it out again. It's just called the actual Ghostbusters.
Yeah. The actual Ghostbusters. Wouldn't that be something if Afterlife is so successful it spawns a new animated series? And then whoever owns the rights, whoever owns Filmation these days goes, now, wait a minute.
Hold on.
Hold on a second. We still invented this thing, or, the guys who we bought this from.
This is still ours. I don't know, unless Hasbro's absorbed everything at this point, which I wouldn't doubt.
Yeah, Hasbro or Disney.
Yeah.
But that was Ghostbusters 2-4 for your Halloween this year.
Yeah. Like I said, I found the Filmation Ghostbusters to be surprisingly engaging. I thought it's a beautiful show. It's really well done and colorful and vibrant, and I dare say I like the voice cast better.
Legends, absolute legends. Fraley and Peter Cullen, and Susan Blue. Yeah, I'm interested to watch it again, actually, and not talk all over the entire thing, and just see where the series goes. So thanks a lot for suggesting that one, Eric.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. I'm glad we did it.
And always happy to see real Ghostbusters. Love the music on it, and the writing is just so perfect. It's just like getting to spend a little more time with those 4 guys from the movie. It's so bang on, even though, like I said, it doesn't look right. It feels right. I mean, it looks right. At this point, we're just used to it, but the writing is so perfect. It's like that Ghostbusters video game that came out some years back. Like, yeah, they got the voice cast in it, and that's amazing, but if the lines weren't genuine, then it would have all been for naught. And just that game is so perfect. The dialogue is so perfect. That game feels like the third Ghostbusters movie that we never got.
Yeah.
So there's actually a lot more Ghostbusters out there than you think. It's not just the first 2 movies. The show really gets it right, way more often than not. Barring the Slimer show and the later seasons, when there's all that behind the scenes stuff where they were tweaking it to try to make it more appealing, and they were making changes that didn't need to be made. Janine, the voice actress, got fired, replaced with someone they thought would be. Was it the voice actress, or they just redesigned the character? Something was going on where they were doing redesigns in midstream to go, well, this will be more successful.
Yeah, they did both. They did a redesign of a lot of elements of the cartoon, and then I want to say it was like 4th or maybe 5th season. Looking, just trying to see if I can spot it real quick. But they did that thing where they turned it into an hour-long show, and like half of it was just Slimer, was dedicated to a very cartoony looking kind of slapstick Slimer. And they had redesigned a couple of the characters. It was really bizarre. They just took this weird left turn. Even as a kid watching it, I remember thinking like, why is it so much different?
Yeah, I remember they regressed. Like, it looked like this is looking more kind of like the Deke, felt to me. Like, I grew up on Sunbow G.I. Joe, and then when I stumbled across Deke G.I. Joe a few years later, I went, why are we doing this? Like, why is the music so wah, 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 and the writing is so not good, and why have we regressed from what Sunbow did instead of advanced and try to get a little more intense and a little more mature and stuff, which is the way it's supposed to go. The Harry Potter movies got it great. Start with the kiddie stuff, end with, oh my God, is anyone going to survive this thing?
Yeah. That's a really good example of, at least in the Harry Potter world, of scaling with your audience and growing with your audience. I mean, she knew that her readers were getting a year older every time she released a book, and I think the material was appropriately more mature and darker. And darker doesn't necessarily mean better, but I think in the context of what she was doing with that story, she was able to scale with her audience. So that's why you look at the last book; it's practically an adult's novel compared to the first one. You go back and it's like a kid's book, really. So it's impressive when they can do that like that. But why they did a real Ghostbusters, I have no idea. You have to think there's somebody messing with that, and some sort of consortium of analytics going on.
I just picture someone who looks like Venkman's dad on the show, and if you don't remember what he looks like, Venkman Sr., plaid suit, pencil mustache maybe. Now let me tell you how we're gonna get the profits back up. The money is with the kids. Okay.
Well, that's the thing. I work in the creative industry myself. I'm a firm believer that nothing ever creative was ever helped by somebody coming in analyzing and retooling based on surveys and data. I think it's when you get something that's creative and good, I think it's because you've captured lightning in a bottle and you've let people do what they do best. I think it's personally the worst form of trying to affect the product or IP or whatever it is trying to step in and take surveys and info and try to please everybody. That's when you please nobody, I think. That's just my own experience.
Yeah, and I agree with that, both in things that I've done myself as well as things that I'm a fan of, that it has to be organic. And it's okay to fail sometimes. It's like fall 9 times, get up 10. Like sometimes you got to stumble through the feeling out process to get where it needs to be. But I don't feel like that's ever achieved with those check marks, those checklists. So many movies fall prey to that, and TV shows. We have that checklist box where, do we have one of these? Do we have one of those? Like, it's not dinner. You can't just follow a recipe and do it. It really needs to be lightning in a bottle. It needs to go where it goes. And, just speaking as a writer myself, sometimes it just comes from a place you don't know where it's coming from. That's the best stuff that just happens that way.
So there's a very famous design story. Now, I went to product design school basically, and there's a famous story of there's several really, but one of the more famous stories of trying to design by committee to tick all the boxes is the Chevy Aztec. And if you remember how god-awful ugly that car was, well, they tried to do this like multi-purpose sport utility that converted to a camper and converted to a pickup truck and all, tried to tick all the boxes because all their research and all their development and all the stuff, they wanted to try to appeal to as many people as they possibly could. And that's, to me, is like the just bog standard lesson in why you don't do that. And it's infamous. Like if you look and they did everything wrong with that car, from the styling. As far as I'm concerned, it's pretty much the Homermobile.
I had a Ryan Reynolds moment when I saw it. And I just went, why? that vehicle to me kind of is the embodiment of the old saying, a friend to all is a friend to none. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. If you're an Aztec owner and you loved your Aztec, then I'm happy.
Hey, love
I
you.
stand corrected.
Yeah, some great stuff out there. I mean, I'm sure somebody loves it, but it's just in product design circles, it was always taught as one of the lessons is to like things you don't do. It was also one of the first cars to be designed entirely inside a computer. Most cars, even today, they'll do like 3D clay models and physical clay models. A lot of times are usually even still hand sculpted. And that the Aztec was sculpted 100% inside the computer.
You have to see it in the real world, and for there's maybe one or two toy fans out there listening along here. So to relate to them, 3D renders can look great, but things can change when you see the actual physical, real life prototype, test shot, model of it. Sometimes things improve over the 3D model, sometimes they deprove, but you got to be able to see it in real life. That makes a big difference too. And also, a lot of wrestling fans might be listening along too. I'll just bring up the booking committee of WCW in the 90s. That doesn't work either. You can't have really great creative storylines done by committee where everyone's like, we need to go here and then he needs to do that. And in theory, it should work when you get a bunch of brilliant minds all together, but it just doesn't work. Like in practicality, it doesn't work all working together for the best creative story in those type of situations.
All right. That was great.
Yeah.
It's a whole new... I honestly thought I was going to watch that Ghostbusters cartoon by Filmation and just be tearing it apart. And I'll be darned, it's pretty good. I enjoyed it.
There's nothing to really... Yeah, even there's nothing to really... Mystery Science Theater. I mean, it's just good. Like even not really listening as much as we should have been. It's just good. You can see how good it is. And same director, I believe, as the Brave Star Legend original movie. That movie is incredible. That Brave Star movie. That's one we definitely need to do someday because it is art in motion.
Yeah.
That Filmation team at that time was firing on all cylinders, and I didn't realize. I was like you. I thought this came out before '86. This is when they were at the peak, top of their game. Brave Star was not long after this, and unfortunately, that's when the doors closed. But yeah, this is good stuff. Really, really good stuff. Ghostbusters is always fun for a one shot every once in a while, but I think the original Ghostbusters animated show, and they could call themselves the original animated Ghostbusters show, because they did beat the other one by a few days apparently.
Yeah.
That's one I really do want to sit down and watch the whole thing, or at least give it a try and see how it goes. I don't know if I can follow the rabbit hole and watch the original live action show, but I don't know. I just like knowing it's out there. There's that prequel out there if I ever do want to give that a shot.
Well, I think if I was going to give it a end cap it and compare it, I'd say, the real Ghostbusters, of course, is nostalgic, and the characters resonate, and, it's a good show in its own right, and it hits some themes. But I think technically and creatively, I think the Filmation's Ghostbusters edges it out. I think it's more watchable. I think it's aged better. I think it's quality wise, it's up a couple ticks for me.
And the voice work of Pat Fraley, one of my favorites, Marshall Bravestar, and Peter Cullen. This is a huge surprise to me. I'm an enormous Peter Cullen fan. I was talking about Peter Cullen on the schoolyard when I was a little kid. The first time I ever learned that a man named Peter Cullen played Optimus Prime was when I saw Transformers the movie. That was never revealed anywhere. His name was in the credits, but it didn't say Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime. I watched the Transformers movie in the theater one time, and that was one of the things I took from that experience. When the credits rolled, I went, who plays Prime? Who plays Prime? Yeah. And I saw Optimus Prime, Ironhide, Peter Cullen. That's when I learned Peter Cullen did Ironhide too.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that the same guy did them both, and I committed that name to memory, Peter Cullen. And I remember saying, yeah, this guy named Peter Cullen does Optimus Prime. And people are like, who cares who does Optimus? It doesn't matter who played him. Well, someday it will.
Yeah, it matters.
So to find a whole new show where he's not just another background guy like he was on Voltron and every other show other than Transformers. He's one of the stars of this show. It's going to be really cool to spend some more time with Mr. Cullen, one of the all-time greats as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to wish everyone out there a very happy Halloween, and hope you're all safe. Do some safe trick-or-treating out there. Remember to brush your teeth and floss, because those treats do come at a price. Again, Eric, thank you so much for hanging out today and chatting Ghostbusters.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is always fun.
Be sure to check out Eric's Instagram, Uncle Deluxe Art. Some interesting projects have been done and are on the way. And everyone out there, thanks for listening along. Happy Halloween and Nerdmas Day.
Nerdmas Day, thank you.